Hello everyone, this is FIDE Master Viktor Neustroev, and today we have a very specific topic. It's piling up tactics. So what is it about? Well, let me try to explain what I want to talk about today. Well, when you play a chess game, and do the combinations, tactical combinations. These tactical combinations are very often the result of a prolonged preparation. And sometimes well, not sometimes, but I think very often, you also force your opponent into a defensive play. And after that, you finally deliver a tactical blow. So this is what our workshop today will be about. We are going to talk of how to prepare a tactical combination and how to add pressure, forcing your opponent to defend. Because once, for example, his pieces are crowded, or he has some other drawbacks, or he has to defend, then very often we can win due to a tactical combination. So this is what I'm going to illustrate. Okay, first of all, if is everything good with the sound? Do we have anybody new today, or you guys all attended my workshops before? Any new guys? Mhm. Okay, I see. Fine. Let's start. Let's start then. Okay, so first of all, when we are preparing the tactical combinations, which principles should we follow? What do you think? What are your suggestions? Attack. Well, I cannot say that we should attack. Well, attack, you mean attack on the king side, attack the enemy king? Not obligatory. Yes, we should take advantage. We should take advantage of the king's potential weakness. And sometimes doing the attack may provoke weaknesses into the enemy camp, and that would allow us to initiate a tactical strike. But attack is just like one of the ideas. I mean, usually we either prevent them from castling or disrupt the enemy king's safety. However, what we should do is we should first improve the position of our pieces. If we just attack the enemy king with a few pieces, we are very unlikely to succeed, only in case if our opponent makes a serious mistake. So we should improve our pieces to let most of them to participate in the place of action. We may also create weaknesses in the enemy camp. So, and as I said, compromise the king at least a little. And what else? We should create disorganization, or we should force the enemy pieces to get poorly coordinated. So there should be disorganization among enemy pieces to let us to create a tactical combination. And finally, we may deliver a tactical strike. Well, a tactical strike can be a result of a blunder, and this of a blunder of our opponent, and this blunder can be provoked with our active play and enemy pieces disorganization, or just it can be a reason of I mean, this can be just a consequence of poorly placed pieces. Okay, this position, white to move. What do you think? This is actually from the Dutch defense. It was Stonewall originally, but the d5 pawn was exchanged for the pawn on f3, so it moved to e4 and then it was undermined. So c5 is the suggestion. Okay, what's the purpose of c5 move? You can play c5, let's say bishop e7. Then what? So with such a move, yes, you kick the bishop, but how do you take advantage of that? Okay, Georgios suggests to play d5 to open the position instead, to open the bishop. It does make sense, but if you play d5 right away, they play e5. And then, yeah, the position no longer looks good. e4 is coming. So doing e4 right away makes more sense. It activates our pieces, because if they take, this looks really good. This is a backward pawn. I don't know if they can play e5 in this position. Probably not, because if they play e5, what if we just play queen h5 in this case? So queen h5, well, there is a check there. So how do we expect them to play? I don't think h6 is a good idea. Well, g6, I think g6 fails completely because of a sacrifice. So then it's rook f7 and 2 checkmates. h6. h6, queen f7, king h8, queen here, threatening with mate. So what? Still checkmate. Yeah, so e5 isn't a good idea, and the king's position is open. So that's why after e4 they have to play e5. If we take with the bishop, they can take with the bishop. So do we have a discovered attack in this case? I doubt. I doubt that such an attack is favorable for us. For example, bishop c6. So queen c6, rook e4, then queen e4, and I think that maybe it's not a winning position. Yes, so let's go back. Should we play d5? No, because, well, our bishop is blocked, so just rook a d8, and we don't have much advantage. So that's why my suggestion is to play c5. How does c5 works? We kick the bishop. However, that's not the goal. The goal is to improve our pieces. So the bishop moves. It goes to f8 to not block the rook. And then queen c2. How does it work? This is protected. Then we can also get 2 pieces coordinated. Well, it's not a pawn chain. 2 pawns together that way isn't really a chain. So, and we threatened to take, actually. We threatened to take. So that's why they have to take here or there. But if they take here, it's always an attack. So that's why here in the game, they took on d4 first. Well, let me see. If they take there, then you can take like that. So what do we expect? I'm sure you see that g6 is g6 fails. So take, queen g6, and then you can play rook f7 and win the game. So what is better? Right, rook f7 is better. Yeah, rook f7, queen h7 is checkmate on the very next move. So bishop f5 doesn't really help. You can take here, or you can first deliver a check and take the queen. Fine, so that's why maybe h6 works. Now let's just win the pawn on e5. What's the problem? I know that there is an attack also, but with this move we at least win the pawn. Oh, rook h7 in that scenario was a mate, so completely no need to take it. Okay, yeah, let me go over this line. G6, bishop G6. Yeah, so I missed it. Rook F7, and after bishop F... No, wait, no, it's not made. It's not made. There is a queen. No, I didn't miss it. Okay, so bishop G7 is still rook F7, because now how to defend? I just don't see any move. That's why bishop G7. Well, and if this move, I just prefer to take bishop H7, or maybe I instead play something like that, and then queen G6. But at least I am a pawn up. So that's why they took on d4 first, but we took on f5, aiming to win this pawn later. They cannot win such a pawn back immediately. Well, let's see. For example, if they play queen e5, how should we continue then? Well, I could hardly hear what you say, but it seems to me that you suggested a check. And the only logical check I see is queen c4. Okay, f6. F6 makes sense, because if queen f6, there is bishop c6. Oh, no, there is bishop d5, not bishop c6, bishop d5. And if pawn takes, it also looks nice, because it ruins the position of the king. But I think that this is sufficient. So what then? There is no way to block. The king has to move. Now bishop d4, c5 is protected. The queen is hanging. And if the queen captures, then it can be bishop c6. At least we win a pawn. But f6 is really nice. f6, so f7 becomes a threat. Queen f6 is a blunder. G takes f6. And then queen c4 still queen c4 is a good idea. But the problem is that now they can block it, which I don't like. So maybe queen c4 first anyway. Okay, queen c4 works. So that's why they played rook d8. And this is where some calculation is required. What do you think? Still queen c4, bishop d4? Why do we have to trade rooks? What's the purpose of that? Okay, so Erosh, bishop h5 was played in the game. And bishop h5 was actually a bit of a mistake. I'll show you once we find a better suggestion. So you see, black has to defend their position. They have to play accurately. And white would be completely fine with this move. Maybe you didn't like it because bishop f5, which does create a discovered attack. But look at this position. Take, rook takes d4, and now bishop h5. So it's winning. You have a... well, if g6, let's say, you can just take on g6 and take the rook. Well, if the rook moves, it's still a winning position. I don't want to show you how, because we are likely to reach a similar position. Okay, so Brian suggests queen c4 here. Brian, I think queen c4 isn't so good, because bishop e6 and you have to move the queen again to c1. Yeah, but if you can just do this and then play bishop h5, then if attack f7, it's definitely better. So you may even let him take your dark squared bishop. It's not such a big issue. What else? So if they play bishop c8, then queen c4 works because there is no check, and you also win a pawn. So this, and then bishop h5, and then yes, f6 is definitely what we should do, and black is losing. So this is how white should play. But he played bishop h5, allowing rook e5. Now he took there, and black, being under the pressure, made a mistake. They just took on f5 thinking this is a good move. What else they could do? They couldn't take on f5 with their bishop. Why? Well, simply because you take on e5. They take your queen and you take their queen. They are just a rook down. And if they take there, then you take on f5 with your queen and you're fine. So it's extra rook. So even if they just trade and then maybe they decide to play this move, it's still okay. So this. No, well, in this position there is also this move, but even if now they take, you still win. But even if you didn't win this bishop, it's still winning because you have extra exchange. Rook g5 at the end of the line, yes. So, how to play? Well, bishop f5, no. Rook d5, it seems yes. Rook d5 attacking the bishop. And if the bishop moves, c5 is hanging. That's why such a move was good. We would probably continue with queen c4, pinning that rook, so that such a move like bishop f5 is still impossible, but they would just move the king, and then it's not clear how to continue. Maybe just bishop g4 trying to save everything. White is clearly better, but not winning. So once again, this again fails because this time you take with a rook and rook d4 doesn't work. There is rook f8. Either now or after queen takes, rook takes, then rook f8 is checkmate. Doesn't bishop f4 work? You mean bishop f3? In which position? In this position, bishop f3 doesn't work. You lose on d4. Instead of bishop g4. Okay. The bishop f3, they take there. How does it work? No, I don't think it works. Okay, fine. So the rook f5 was played, and that blunder was okay. Please, can you stop drawing? So that blunder was a result of being under a long-term pressure. Well, and this move allows white to initiate a tactical strike already. What do you think? How exactly white should play? And while you are thinking, let me answer this question. So the question is whether I can analyze the game that Rajwardhan Singh played against FIDE Master. So to help him to improve. Well, this is not what we typically do at the workshops. Once I announce a workshop where we are going to discuss your mistakes, I mean our students' mistakes, then yes, you can. For such purposes, I would recommend you booking an individual class. So what do you think? What's wrong with such a move? looks like everything fine. If we take this, but then they take on d4, the material is equal. We have bishops of opposite color, so trading major pieces allows black to draw. Maybe there is something wrong with that position. So let's do this. Rook f5, bishop f5, queen f5. So we lose on d4, but we have a light squared bishop on the board. What do you think? Can we take advantage of that light squared bishop? Okay, so Brian wanted to play queen c4 first. Oh, interesting. So take the rook. They do this. No, wait, queen c4 in this exact position. Okay, okay. And if they play this move, you cannot play queen f7. You have to take on f5 first, but then still queen f7 is impossible because the 7th rank is open and the queen guards this square. So no, it doesn't work. Maybe you take first. No, then queen c4, king h8. No, I don't see anything. No, you cannot play queen f7. The queen is still guarding it. There is a more simple solution. Well, I'm sure you've seen this position. I mean, well, in most of the books, you can find this puzzle. It's from, yeah, so Richard Reti was playing against Efim Bogoljubow. Okay, so Alan, I think is correct. Alan says rook f5, bishop f5, queen f5, rook d4, and in this position, rook f1. That's right. And probably this is the position you saw in the puzzles. Okay, yes. Yes, Arush, you're absolutely correct. Then rook goes to d8. This is exactly what happened in the game. But I have a question. What if they decide to defend the bishop with this move? Look, you see they cannot, for example, just move the bishop. Well, c5, no. It's protected by the queen. So e7 maybe? No, because there is an easy checkmate. That's why, what if queen e7? How do you win then? So bishop f7, king h8, and in this position, if you play bishop e8, they go back. No, if bishop g8, they take this bishop. So bishop g8, they just take it. Bishop d5, well, you prevent this move, and you also block the rook, so the rook cannot retreat to defend this bishop. What they can do is just to create an escape square. They do have a check, but it's just a check, and even if now they move their bishop, queen f8 still leads to checkmate. Well, you don't have to play queen f8, you can play queen c8, but even queen f8 leads to checkmate. So yeah, that's so check and bishop d5, stopping the rook. Because if you play, let's say this, and then bishop c4 with the same idea, then the rook comes back and they protect on f8. So with this bishop d5, you not only open the line, but you interfere and prevent rook d8. Okay, in the game they played rook d8 move, and then let's follow the line that Erush suggested. Yes. So Erush suggested in this position bishop f7 check, king h8, and in this exact case, this move bishop e8 is good. The bishop on f8 is not protected at all. So if he does just one protection like queen e7, for example, or rook takes e8, it's queen f8, which leads to checkmate. So what he can do here? Nothing. Take there. with a check. Still fails. The bishop is poisoned because of a checkmate on f8. Create an escape square, but then he loses the bishop. Okay, who can tell me, who can find checkmate in 3 in this position after h6? Because h6 seems to be the strongest option. Sorry, I didn't get the end of the study. Okay, yeah, so, yeah, fine, thanks. Yes, you're right. So you take there, they go there, then bishop g6, and once you attract the king to g6, queen f5 is checkmate. Fine. So what we were discussing in this game, so what was this game about? White started with e4, trying to improve the position of their pieces. This bishop potentially, and the queen, which is, according to our first principle, improvement of your own pieces. They played e5, and a direct confrontation with pawns started. c5 to drive the bishop back, so the bishop moved, and then queen c2. Why queen c2? Because we threaten there, we defend there, and this queen and bishop battery may create some damage to the enemy king's position, because after g6, let's say in this scenario, g6, we could just sacrifice and win the game then. So that's why queen c2 provoked e takes d4, and they are a pawn down. Now they have to, well, we are likely to take this pawn for free, so they will be pawn down, and because of that, they have to find a way of how to capture this pawn. They try to do it in a tactical way by doing bishop f5 or something like that, but here white played this move, and after that provoked black to make this mistake. So being under the pressure, like step by step, by improving the position of your pieces, by creating threats to the king or to the other pieces, you're provoking your opponent to make a mistake, and then you can initiate a tactical strike. That was the concept. Okay, let's continue. This is our second example. White to move. White is definitely better, but how much better white is? The black king is not castled yet. How to pile up in this exact position? What do you think? To create tactical opportunities for white. Okay, so try to keep the enemy king in the center and open up the game. Well, so what you said is definitely correct, but how exactly you can do it? This is what Alan suggested. John suggested f4 and f5, and in my opinion, this is what first should come to people's mind, because if you play rook e1, they can castle. And then what? Well, then maybe you can play f4, but if you can play f4 right away, you'd better play it right away, because this move creates a threat. So f4 seems like the only solution. There is, I don't know, bishop c3. No, there is no bishop c3 move. Fine, so f4, what happens then? The knight has to move. Where? Well, it's a big question, because moving there means they blunder such a knight. And even intermediate queen h4 doesn't help. So let me show you. This is a blunder. Well, it seems that this is a mating threat, which is true, but here you can take what to take. Let's decide. If I take there, I'm likely to lose that knight. So let me take on c5 with a check. For example, the king moves, and then I play h3. So there is no checkmate. It's a completely, it's just a waste of time. Well, you may say that h5 and so on, but come on, I don't believe it. This, you are not even threatening with anything. So let's just trade queens, and that's it. Fine. So that's why the knight has to go where? To d7 or to c4. d7 is passive, so they went to c4. And f5, still creating a threat. Taking there means that two pieces are hanging simultaneously. And even after knight b3, what we can do? We can take on b3 and then take on e6. Or we can take on e6 right away and then take on f7. For example, knight a1, we take there, king moves, knight c4, pawn takes, and let's say queen e5. We win this knight for sure. But this is a passed pawn, so this is the next move. And then we win a rook at least. So it's a winning position. We also threaten to take there, because if the king goes to c8, the other rook is lost. Well, if you don't want to sacrifice material, take there first, and after this move, what? Take on e6? Or just take there, and then invade the enemy camp, like queen e5, for example. Well, those of you who want to play something simple can continue with this strategy. It looks well too. Okay, so up to you. f5, what did... I didn't play title Tuesday. I didn't play in the title Tuesday, so I no longer want to play there because once you use Proctor, it slows down your computer and every move takes like 2-3 seconds. So that's why I stopped. Okay, g takes f5 was played, of course. What else? Because there is a pin. Knight f5, and there is still a threat. So all the moves that white played were moves that created threats. How to play in this position? Do you think castle is good? So let's say they do it. What do you think? So what comes to your mind here? It seems to be a losing position, but why? Well, queen g4, bishop f5. So queen g4, they just take it. We can take with a rook, of course, and it still seems to be quite risky for black, but I don't see any immediate win. Brian suggests queen h5, but I also don't fully understand the purpose. Are you going to prepare this move and then capture on h7? Well, they can take just. Knight c4, bishop h6. Maybe knight c4, bishop h6 works faster. Any other suggestions? Okay, let me show you. Okay, knight h6 and knight c4, bishop c2 right away. Bishop c2 right away is a reasonable move, but yeah, I don't know if they can take and then play h6, trying to defend the position. Okay, so what I would do, I would just take, king takes for sure. Then knight takes on c4. The pawn takes, the b pawn takes. And this is where I originally wanted to play bishop h6, so I'm not sure if it's the best way to play. What else do I have? What for? Yeah, bishop c2, such a move exists, and then knight e4. So I take it, pawn takes, queen takes, queen h5. Okay, so let's go back. If they castle... Yeah, let's follow what Brian said. Take, and if we keep the bishop on c2, we are very likely to succeed, because how to defend against this? Another option is, because this not only threatens h7, it also threatens bishop h6. We can, at any moment, we can trade on c4 and play bishop h6 then. So it seems that after bishop c2, it's a winning position. Okay, fine. So that's why here the game continued with rook g8. Well, they probably intend to castle to the queen side. Oh, it didn't come to my mind. I don't think so, but let's see how it can be punished. Well, let's take then. I don't think you will want to take with the queen, because then queen h5. So you take with, well, with this pawn, it's queen e5, you're winning a knight. So with the b pawn is probably the strongest option. So what? Let's play this move. King g8? Yeah, I don't think you can do that. There's queen e7, knight d7, and I can take advantage of that. King g8, okay, so rook f4. Just let me see. Bishop g5, what is better? Let's play bishop g5. Then queen h5. No, let's play rook f4. So f6, queen e6, and rook h4. And if queen e6, you want to take on f4, then okay. I think it fails. Just let me see. So knight d7. So queen e6. If you take on e6, I take on h4. So queen f4 is a must. Well, queen d7 looks already winning. But what I found is bishop h7 move. No, I don't like bishop h7 anymore. Okay, no, just bishop f... Just queen d7 is enough. Okay, bishop h7 in this position. But what I don't like is, well, if king takes, it's winning. But if queen takes, what then? Queen g5? No, you cannot play queen g5. No, Erosh, I don't think it works. Queen h3 looks good at the end. Okay, so knight d7, queen e6. This, oh yeah, thanks. Queen h3 looks good in the end. So this is hanging, and this is hanging with a mate. This is nice, and there is no check. So it's over. Thanks, Vivek. It's a really nice move. I didn't realize that it's playable. I thought just queen d7 and extra exchange, and then queen h3, but I didn't realize we can play it right away. Fine. So no, castle doesn't look good. So rook g8 was played. How to continue? Okay, so Rook G8, according to Brian, is a serious concession in this structure. Well, okay, but what else to suggest? If we see that castle fails, then what, a bishop move? Well, the bishop is the object of the attack anyway. Well, yes, but I originally said that white is better, so I cannot say that he is losing, but his position is really tough, and he can only survive if he castles queenside then. So rook g8, how to play? So he lost his castling privilege to the king side, only to the queen side left. Uh, so let's play logically. Let's take there. They take with the d pawn to open the position a little, and you can play bishop c2. Also intending to take on h7 at some point later. So bishop here. What then? Queen g4. Ah, you mean in this position? So this move fails because queen takes. Looks very suspicious. Let me see. And what? The threat is this. After king f8, it's 96. So you can safely... You can move the bishop to f8? No, you cannot. It's a pin. This is bishop f8. You mean f5? Ah, bishop f5. Okay, but the rook f5. Yeah, defending the position. Yes, it's possible. I don't want to play like that. I would... if king f8, there is knight c4. And then... No, yeah, I would play like that. I don't think there is bishop h6 anymore. So, take. Yeah, it seems to be safe. Black had 93. I don't think in this position 93 works. So 93. Knight g7 check. And then I want to make a move with the king and deliver a check. So like that, for example. And even if I don't do it, this is a threat to the queen. So where does the king move? Because, for example, king f8 take. If knight takes, well, this is not what I want. Well, maybe it's still okay. So knight takes. Well, rook g2 is not a serious problem. Let's play this move. So rook g2. No, I don't think it's a problem. Rook g2, king h1 just. Knight f1 this, and there are two bishops for a rook, and bishop h6 is coming. That's why I think it's completely winning. Okay. There is queen e6, and if knight f1, then what? Queen h6 intermediate check. Right, thank you. And then three pieces even. And rook g2 also fails, right? Yes, it seems so. So the queen is hanging another check. Rook goes back to save the game, and knight f1 still offers a winning position. Rook h2. Oh, wow, rook h2. I missed it. This is the idea. So knight has to take. They take, and three pieces for the queen. And black is winning then. So yes, it seems that queen e6 failed because of rook g2. So my mistake. And yes, after they take on h2, queen h4 becomes available. Okay, fine. So yeah, that's why, well, queen g4 isn't so promising, but seems to be okay in case if in this position we just continue with queen h3. This is winning. Okay. So knight e3 doesn't work, but king f8 I think is fine. So king f8 or what? Or queen f6 or king d7. Well, you cannot take. Oh, king d7. Yes, and with king d7 he evacuates the king. That's why we have to act rapidly, and that's why this was played. So d takes, bishop takes. Now knight d3 was played. So queen g4 in this position allows them to defend with queen f6. Or not? What's your opinion? Take on g7 and then bishop h6? What do you mean? Take on g7, queen takes g7 this time. Uh, your own queen is hanging. You cannot do so. So the question is whether this works. No, it doesn't, because your queen is hanging. Okay, before queen g4, Brian suggested to do what? To take on g7 and then bishop h6. Okay, but let's say they just retreat where? There. Why this position is good? It's not bad for sure, but where is our advantage? The bishop is hanging. Oh, okay. There is a nice suggestion of playing queen e4. No, rook f7 doesn't work, just king f7 then. So I don't want to get the queen trapped with queen h5, bishop g4. So, okay. So queen g4, queen f6, we can take. Well, it's not required, but let's take. And then play queen e4. And now we threaten this and we threaten that. So even if they castle, knight d6 still works. And white should be better. So yeah, we sacrifice some material for the queen, but should be winning position anyway. So queen g4 this time makes a lot of sense. Yeah, but the game continued with bishop h6. Offering a trade. They played bishop to f8. Well, taking there means we can take and threaten f7, g8. So they moved it back. Rook a d1, adding pressure. So you see, before doing the final tactical combination, you add pressure and force your opponent to defend. This is very likely to provoke him to like either place his pieces weirdly or blunder something. And then you can find the tactical strike, even if you play against such a strong player like Viktor Kortchnoi. Well, you don't have a chance to play against him because unfortunately he isn't alive. But I'm saying just even against a strong grandmaster, if you're adding pressure, you may provoke him to make a mistake. So queen d5 was played. Well, there is not much they could do with this pin. So queen d5, take, rook takes, queen goes to c6. How to continue? Just some prophylaxis is required. But look, our queen is tied down to the g2. In the game, it was bishop f8 played. And the idea of this move is that, well, if they play rook f8, then what? Knight g7, king e7. Well, you can play knight d4 in this exact position if you want. There is... Ah, you mean you force him to lose his castling privilege and then you play so. Okay, fine. Yeah, but yeah, knight d4 is playable, fine. But in this exact position, there is a better way to play. You can do a check, and then after king e7, then you can play queen e5, threatening with checkmate in one. In order to defend against such a checkmate, your opponent has to play this move, right? How you continue then? Knight f5. And now, if he goes to f7, there is knight d4, which allows you to attack f6, e6, and the queen. So there is a pin. If he goes that way, then how to play? Okay, there is no tactical strike. Just move the queen away, add more pressure. You're already threatening with this move, so he loses material anyway. Okay, John suggests knight e6. In which scenario knight e6? In this position, knight e6. No, the queen is hanging. So maybe in this position, knight e6. And if queen takes, you can play rook e3, right? But he just simply captures with a pawn. It's still a losing position with such a king. But there is no such a straightforward solution for white. Okay, let's go back. Bishop f8, they first decided to... if they take with the king, this is what we didn't analyze. Then knight d4 is a check. Oh, is a fork. And even if your opponent decides to pin with this or with queen c5 move, it's queen e6. Based on this pin, you win the bishop. Like that. In the game, it was queen b6. Check, king moves, and then king f8. So that knight d4 is not a tempo move. So now if you play knight d4, it's just bishop d5. What do you think you should play? That was a really nice move. White played something else in the game. Yeah, well, yeah, Karpov liked short tactics. So Brian suggests queen h5. Well, with queen h5, you bring the queen to the king side and to threaten what? Queen h6? Yeah, it makes sense. What else? Can you please specify how rook d7 works? Yeah, the bishop cannot take it, okay, but what do you expect black? Okay, so yeah, rook d7 is a good move. The bishop cannot take it because queen e5. And if not, then your next move can be queen e5. So just queen here or just a check from h6. And the bishop is also pinned because queen e7 is a checkmate. So you take there. Oops. He goes that way. You first have to take there and then you can checkmate. Interesting. Queen g6. Well, it's still a winning in game. You can trade and play rook f7, but I thought that there is a more simple way to win. So maybe you play with the queen, threatening with queen e5. So check this. Oh, let's take on f7 first. How do they survive after this? Yeah, so rook f5 first, and then we take there. Doesn't matter how he plays, we can still take it. And then rook h7, and it leads to checkmate. So even if they play, so this, king moves, and we take on h7 anyway. Okay, fine. Okay, so rook d7 with queen e5 idea. In the game, it was played queen f3. It's better than queen h5 because it creates a threat on the rook. So maybe they have to play this, but they played that. And so they were provoked to make such a mistake. And now, well, this is obvious move. They defend, right? they also cover e7. But at the same time, this move compromises the king. What do you think? How Karpov played here? What for? Knight, okay. First, I still wanted queen h5. Uh-huh. Yeah, knight h6 creates a mating threat, but they play just rook g7. No, with knight h6, you threaten to take on f7. So rook g7, your turn. Okay, so Erosh suggests first playing rook d7. Okay, rook d7, bishop d7, Erosh, and then what? Then you cannot play knight h6. There. Oh, you mean queen takes? Oh, interesting. So knight h6 in this exact position even. Ooh, but you are down a rook, so maybe they can survive with f5. Knight f5 and queen f6. Yeah, that's why you'd better play rook d7 later, like Brian, for example, suggested. So knight h6, rook g7, and then rook d7, because they cannot take. So if they take, the king doesn't escape. So queen f7 is checkmate. And what do they have to do after this move? So because this is coming, or even this is coming, they have to vacate a square for the king. But of course it fails too, right? So you just take on f7 with your knight this time, and then win the game. Well, so if they take with a bishop on f7, it's game over. You just take there, then bring your pieces to attack. Well, so let me show you. So this. Well, if the king moves there, it's checkmate like that. If the king goes that way, I think it's also an easy checkmate. For example, which move to start with? Rook f8. Rook f8. So this. Oh, it's not checkmate. No, it's not checkmate. Okay. Queen e4. Yeah, queen e4. This. No. I want to checkmate, not win the rook just. So then I can play this move. And after that, the king doesn't escape. No, wait, they can trade there. Okay, so this move instead. This, they have to sacrifice the queen. Okay, yeah, they escape, but this time they sacrifice the queen and also the rook. Fine. So, and finally, bishop d7. What is our final win? Is it knight h6 or what? Knight e5? What do you suggest? Okay, thanks. Liliana suggested knight d8. Well, Irish, I think knight d6 doesn't work so well because they can escape there. But if you play knight d8, king g8 is no longer an option. So blocking makes no sense. Moving the king to e7, well, or e8 leads to immediate checkmate. So that's why knight d8 is the simplest way. Fine. So you see, again, here, the position for white was better originally, and white played f4, f5. That compromised the black's pawn structure and created several targets into the enemy camp, so that they had to defend. And then we were adding pressure. So we didn't take on g7, we didn't play queen g4, which would, well, queen g4 wasn't bad, but that would allow us only to use several pieces into the attack. We instead brought all the pieces. All the pieces with bishop h6, and then even we brought the rook to d1, open the position more, and because of this nice geometry, we were able to find this. Rook d7 would work too, and it was probably even a faster way, but Karpov didn't see it and played queen f3 first, knight h6, and then rook d7. So here, if only black played something else with rook b8, the game would continue. Of course, white is still winning, but it's not the very end. But they played this move, trying to consolidate. They realized that their position is bad and they should keep pieces together. However, that all resulted into a tactical strike, mainly because of a compromised position of the king and because all white pieces can participate in the attack. So rook d7 here or knight h6, and then rook d7 allows to win. All pieces participate. There are no pieces left on the back rank or somewhere else. This is how you can defeat even a strong chess player, if you get all pieces into the place of action. Okay, fine. So let's continue with our next example. Okay, the position is complex and it's really tough for black. So, okay, think for a while and please suggest what black should do. Oh, so the opening for white, it's not related to the topic of our workshop, so not today. Once we decide, and I also don't know your opening, your playing style, so that's why no, I cannot. Uh, so it's again, we can discuss it at individual lessons, if you're interested, of course. Okay, so guys, what do you think about this position for black? While their knight is hanging, the pawn on c5 is protected by the bishop on f2. So once we move the knight, even if we move it to a really nice position, such as d5, they play knight d6. We have a fork on c3 too, but after that, what do we have? Let's take here with a check. Queen takes, bishop c8. So what can you say about this position? Knight takes c4. Knight takes c4. Okay. So they take with what piece? With a queen, probably. And what do you really like the black's position? So this is hanging. The pawn on c5 is very annoying. Maybe a5 is a must, but they try to invade your camp. With rook d7 also. This is the initial. So you think that we should sacrifice on c5? Well, sacrifice in exchange for a pawn. Well, they play with the knight, so there is no pin. Yeah, that's right, because moving the king makes the king more vulnerable. So yeah, actually, I'm not saying that rook c5 is like a move that makes the black's position really better. No, absolutely not. But anything else makes the black's position really tough to play. So this pawn on c5 is really strong. It's isolated, but it's already a passed pawn, and it covers the d6, which gives white a very pleasant outpost. So that's why it seems that this sacrifice is forced. And then they play knight e3. So black has a compensation, but it's only one pawn as a compensation. However, the good news is that actually there are two pawns, because these pawns can stop these three. So that's why we have a pawn on e4, and we can convert 2 versus 1 on the queen side. So at some point we can say that there are two pawns to compensate the exchange. But here it's too early to talk about the endgame and to calculate the compensation. A lot is based on the pieces activity. So okay, let's say this knight e3 was played, and what black should continue with to not make their position worse. Okay, so the biggest question is whether should you trade the queens or not. Because if you decide to move your queen away from the c file, it's already an achievement for white, because they are active on the open file. If you trade, then the rook takes. So bishop c3. So guys, please don't use your microphone too often. So you can also suggest in the chat. So let other people to say it. So because, well, they think they suggest it in the chat. So it's okay if you a few times use your microphone, but from time to time at least write it down in the chat. So yeah, bishop c3 definitely is a good move. Why so? You first of all keep the position complicated. You close it. There is no queen's trade in such a case, and you grab space, which is important move. And what else? How to play for white? Their position is restricted, and well, if you turn the engine on, it says white is better, but a little. However, for a human player, it's really hard to come up with a move. What they can do. A5, A4 is coming, by the way, like John suggested. So what to play? For white. Yes, Alex, it's good that you remember it. Bishop a6 looks good. Well, yes, that's why white just defends it with the king. So they played this move. Bishop a6, yes, but bishop a6 and they are forced to sacrifice exchange back. Well, actually, no, because they can play rook ed2 and the bishop is pinned. So we cannot take it. That's why a5 first and bishop a6 later. So here they played rook ed2, a4, and if they take on a4, then what happens? How should we play then? Should we take and after this win exchange back? Oh no. What is your suggestion in this position? Okay, right. It's knight c4. So with knight c4, you add the pressure on these two. So rook goes to e2, and then knight b2 going to d3 then. And if they sacrifice on d3, it opens your bishop and provides you with the possibility of the attack through this diagonal. So that's why they didn't take. They play bishop e6. What to play then? Well, bishop a6 still looks attractive, but well, f5 is hanging or not. They are also about to trade rooks, I think. Well, let's say we play bishop a6. Well, bishop d3 is a kind of a threat, but they can trade. So let's say still bishop d3. Well, this time, actually, I think it won't work. They just sacrifice there, play queen d3. This is hanging, this is protected. So white pieces got better, and maybe they can take advantage of our king's position. That's why black offers an exchange. So trading means... actually, trading means the queen can take on c8. Or what? Oh, there is a better move. You can play knight c4. And after rook e2, then you can take. And then you threaten to win exchange that way with knight e3 and bishop d4. And then this endgame should be winning. Rook d8 instead of bishop c8. Rook d8 in this position. Don't you lose a bishop? So actually, the best move is rook d6, protecting that bishop and activating the rook. Let's say take, knight c4 now, but with queen e2, it seems that they can defend the position. If now we take, they take with the queen, bishop d4 is no longer playable because d4 is attacked twice. Bishop d4 right now also doesn't look so good because take, and queen c4, and we lose. So rook d6 was the best move, but they play rook d5. And this move is already a blunder. And your task is to find how. So at first it seems that, well, they just sacrifice exchange but activate their pieces, and then maybe f5 is vulnerable. But what's wrong with rook d5? Who can tell me? Okay, so fine. Okay, so let's say we take. What else? We take. They take with a rook, because if they take with a bishop, then what? And bishop a6, bishop d3, and so on. Or rook d8. What do you think is the best? I think both are playable. So bishop a6, then rook d8, or bishop d3 then. So this is winning. But again, they take with a rook. And this is where bishop e1 works. How does it work? So it distracts the king from the knight, and because of that, we can start our attack. How? Well, if the king takes, we take there. And this is losing, because even if they block, we take on e6. We trade queens first, and then we take on e6, we're up a piece. So what else they have to do? King e2. Yeah, king e2. But king e2, bishop e6. And now they still have to take it. And if they take it, it's a strong attack. For example, this leads to checkmate, e3. That's why after bishop e1, what they have to do is king g2. But, well, again, it's a winning position. You can win material. You can do that move. They have to take it, and then you take on e6. So this is hanging. The bishop is hanging too, but you have extra piece. For example, if they decide to attack it with such a move like that, what would you suggest? Yeah, b3 works. B3 should work. B3, they have to take it. You take it with your with what? With your pawn. Let's say they take on e1, and in this position you just continue with rook b8, and then you promote. There is nothing they can do to stop because the knight cannot join. So even if they take there, this is sufficient. If they don't take there but try to block with their rook like that, it's still not possible because of bishop a2. That's right. So b3 wins the game. Well, I'm sure there were other options. Even something like that already offers a winning position because of these two passed pawns. But b3 is the simplest way. Okay, great. So we have one more game to go over it. Oh, let's just do a quick summary. So what did happen? What did happen in this position? In this position, Black realized that they really have a tough position, and what they need is at least to solve problems with lack of space, with their pieces positions, and for such purposes, to not make their position even worse, they decided to take on c5 and sacrifice exchange. And then, yes, there is an idea of putting pressure on the c file, but after 93, if we want to play for a win, we should keep the position more complicated. Moreover, with such a move like bishop c3, we not only prevent the queen straight, but also close the file to not let our opponent to activate his rook. So, and we have active plan with this. Once we did it, well, bishop a4 failed because of a tactical idea. Bishop e6 was played. Then we tried to improve or to trade our useless bishop. They were under the pressure, made a mistake, and completely missed that there is bishop e1, which allows us to take on e3 and then take on e6. So being under the pressure, white made a mistake, and because of that, lost the game with a tactical combination. Fine. Okay, there is one more game to go over, but before we continue, I want to remind you that our workshops are free. However, if you like this content and you would like to support me, you can do it. For example, using this PayPal link, PayPal button. So you click donate, then enter the amount that you want to donate. Then you click this yellow button PayPal, enter your PayPal account, and transfer money automatically to my PayPal account. I would appreciate any help. The other way to do it is through Wise. So let me share the link. The other way to do it is through Wise. Wise works perfectly well for Europeans, but for Americans too. So you can do it in any currency, dollars, euro, even in Indian rupees. That would help me really much, especially this is how I can pay salary to my assistant who do the announcements, who prepare the games that I choose from. So I would really appreciate it. Fine. Let's now continue with our main topic. We have one more line to go over. So you can still see the screen. Okay, so very nice position for white. What would you suggest for white to do? So the black king needs one move to castle, and it's white to move already. The number of pawns is equal, but the pawn on c5 is potentially hanging. It's not hanging right away, because even if it was black to move and they took, there is knight c6, a discovered attack, after which the bishop on c5 is hanging. So potentially it's hanging. What would you suggest for white to play, I mean? Okay, for those of us who watch the stream of this event on YouTube, there is a link that you can use to register for the next event. If so, if you register, there will be a Zoom link sent to you, and you can participate it in live, not just watch the recording. I mean, not just watch the stream, but participate in a Zoom meeting. If you like it, of course. So white to move, we are talking about piling up tactics, how to add more pressure to the black's position here. Okay, there was a nice suggestion by Brian, it's b4. There is also knight cb5. Interesting, so knight cb5 may work actually too. But then where do you go? So let's say I play a6, do you go to d6, but then the bishop takes? b4 looks like, if it works, then it works better. Then it is a really good move. Why so? Because you support the pawn and because you're about to add pressure. If they play a6, then this, and that works well. So that's why black decided to capture on b4 right away. So it was a possible move, right? But then they have to stay under the pressure. a5, a3, the knight goes back. What then? How to add more pressure? We have the file open, but we opened it at the cost of a pawn sacrifice. Okay, Zamfir, don't worry. How was your competition? Okay, so rook b6. Well, what's the purpose of rook b6? To double, maybe. Rook b6, then bishop d8, and you have to bring the rook back. Well, bishop f3 is a better move, because with bishop f3, you already threatened to take on c6 due to the pin of the b7 pawn. And such a move requires black to move their queen. So where to play? Well, maybe queen c8 was a better move. Queen c8, knight b5, or knight. Okay, anyway, they played queen c7. Then knight cb5 with a temper, and queen c8 is a logical move. White still continues their attack, and they are fine. Maybe knight d6 will be played at some point. But black made a mistake instead. They played queen e5. What's wrong with queen e5 move? What do you think? So by adding such a pressure, white provokes black to make a mistake. So queen e5 was that mistake. So how do you take advantage? Let's come up with a tactical strike here. So bishop c6 was suggested by Ekhant or Okhant. Ekhant. Knight c6 by Georgios with bishop d4. I think knight d6, bishop d4 makes more sense. So knight c6 is better. It vacates this square. So they took with a pawn. What if they took with a piece? Did it change anything or not? Well, it seems not really, because we can take there, then still play that move. And if queen f4, because the queen must move to such a position that covers c7, then it's just g3. And the queen has to go back to b8. So it doesn't really change much, and we can continue with our with what happened in the game. So pawn takes, bishop d4, and the queen went to b8. If the queen goes to f4, just one more move, and the queen goes back. So queen b8 immediately, which is a queen sacrifice, knight d6. So bishop takes d6, rook takes b8, bishop takes b8, and this is a winning position. We have queen versus rook, knight, and one pawn. But white pieces are better coordinated. So trading such a queen for knight and rook wasn't enough for black. Now they are losing. What did happen in the game? So bishop takes f6, g takes f6, ruining the position, and queen a4, adding pressure there. Of course, they defend. But now, when they are tied down to the weaknesses, we can activate our pieces and invade the enemy camp. Castle. But it's too late. It's too late to castle. Queen g4, king h8. Why not queen a4 first? In which position? So here, queen a4 first. Why do we have to take? They have knight d5. If so, queen a4 makes no sense if you don't attack c6. So that's why trading first, ruining the pawns, and then queen a4. Queen g4, king h8, and then queen d4, double attack. They played rook a7, defending the bishop. So queen f6, king g8. Now please find the tactical combination which wins the game. Yes, please continue. What if the king goes to f8, not to h8? Well, oh, check again. Okay, it's better. Well, which check again? Queen h8? What? Queen h8. No, the queen is there. So, well, okay, what you are suggesting is this. This check, they go there. This check. This. So looks like you don't win the rook. But if you first start with this move, you let your opponent to move the king only to h8, and then it works. Yeah, this is how the game ended. Okay, fine. Let's just do a quick summary of this combination. So what did happen? Black in this position is already in trouble. They need one tempo to castle. And white increases their pressure on the queen side by doing a pawn sacrifice. After the knight takes, the rook makes a pin. And step by step, white increases their pressure on the queen side. There are also weak squares into the enemy camp that white wants to take advantage of. So the queen goes away from the pin, but falls under another tactical strike, knight b5. Now, well, queen c8, and they have to defend the position passively, but instead black wants to play actively, brings the queen there, and makes the queen the object of the attack. Knight takes c6. pawn takes, bishop d4, and the queen has to go back and guard the c7 square to avoid a fork. If queen f4, just g3, forcing the queen go to b8 back. So the queen went back to b8 instantly and fell under knight d6. A discovered attack. And then white just simply realized their material and positional advantage. Okay, fine. So this was all I wanted to share at our today's event. Do you have any questions? So those of you who are looking for private coaching, you can message me. If you have any other questions, you can also message me on email, tricksofchess@gmail.com. Okay, so thank you for coming. There will be an email for you tomorrow with the recording of this event, as well as with an article that I'm going to publish on chess.com in my blog. Yeah, that was absolutely winning. Okay, thank you. See you next Sunday. Bye bye.